Hello everyone, welcome to Bookmas Day. I have no idea. We're doing bookish hot takes and bookish hot topics. Sorry if you hear some noise behind me because my laundry machine's going right now. I've compiled a list of bookish hot takes and bookish hot topics that are like currently circulating in the book space right now, and I'm just gonna give my opinion on it. I know literally the internet is so convoluted with so many different people's opinions. Are you kidding? The internet and the bookish space on the internet is convoluted with a ton of different people's opinions, and like, what does mine really have anything to do with it? I don't know, but I'm just gonna say it because I think it's like a cool snapshot in time of what I thought about some bookish hot takes. The first topic I have on my list is audiobooks. The validity, I guess, of audiobooks. A lot of people love to say online that like audiobooks aren't reading, or audiobooks like aren't valid ways to consume a book, or even just like ebooks. And my take on this is I disagree. Like, first of all, the most simple thing about this take that I think people are overlooking are, what about blind people? Is Braille not reading? Audiobooks, is that not reading? You know what I mean? Like, you're forgetting about people that literally that's their only option of consuming books, or even more general than that, like people who just don't have time to sit down and read leisurely. Like, reading is a hobby that ever has been like a luxury. Times who had time to read, or even the ability to read. Literacy was not always a thing for a lot of people. Criticizing the way that people consume a book, kind of overlooking, I think, a lot of genres of people. It's a very big generalization that I don't think you should make. A not very well informed generalization. People that don't have the time to read, people that don't have the ability to read physical books, whether that's because of a disability or just because of a time constraint or maybe a monetary constraint. I don't think that you should make a generalization that audiobooks are not counted as reading, because I think you're overlooking a large community or population of people that maybe don't have the privilege to read as you do, and that's like, okay, it's still reading, you still consume the same story, you're still able to talk about it critically. And also, while I was doing research for this video, Lexi on BookTube, she was talking about this. Actually, I don't even remember what I was gonna say. Next topic we have is third person, or like present tense in books, the like tense or perspective that books are written in. I honestly don't really notice the perspective or the tense that books are written in, unless it's like because they're written poorly. Also, I forgot to address that, yes, I'm wearing a Halloween sweatshirt today, and it is December, like a few days away from Christmas, and what about it? And I'm gonna still wear it, so you know, whatever. Third person, first person, second person was always something in school that was very, very confusing to me, and I didn't really understand. Like, I can understand the difference, but I can't differentiate it in my head unless I'm looking at like a chart that's like, these pronouns go with this tense, this goes with this. I really can't look at a book and start reading a book and be like, oh, this is in third person, because I really can't differentiate between the two without assistance. Is that a little bit like, just memorize it, girl? Yeah, I probably should, but I haven't, and I'm not probably going to. It just really confuses me. Special editions, buying special editions, buying multiple copies of books, collecting books. Really, I will stand by the fact that buying books and reading books are two separate hobbies. That's like my take. I love buying books and I also love reading books, and I feel like I do them separately. I think the thing with special editions is, like, on social media, when you romanticize having such a large library or a large amount of books, makes other people feel like they need to have an abundance of physical copies of something to be a valid reader, or to have like this beautiful big library, but that's like not true, and also not realistic. It costs like a ton of money. I'm very privileged to be able to work and buy my own books and lots of physical copies of books, which I love, and I would love to have a huge library one day that is just filled, a whole room filled with beautiful paper books. Like, that's my dream, and that's what I'm working towards. But I also think if you don't have the money or the means, you don't need to buy a bunch of physical books. I would recommend getting a Kindle. The immediate purchase of a Kindle is kind of expensive, but if you do Kindle Unlimited, which is $10 a month, which I know isn't very affordable for everyone, but it's a more affordable option, because if you're reading those types of books that are on Kindle Unlimited, a book is more than $10, so you're paying for one book a month, but you can read like a bajillion. And I also love reading on my Kindle. I just also like having the trophy of the physical copy. I will say I don't really understand buying special edition copies of books. I don't really like having multiple copies of one book for the most part. The only exception to this is I have my old Harry Potter series that's like really beat up, and it's the first copies of those books that I ever read. I'm scared scared to touch them because I think they're gonna fall apart. So I would really love to buy a new box set of that so I can reread them and whatever, and maybe like, you know, loan them out to people and stuff without being scared that they're going to be destroyed. The first Harry Potter book that I own is like dang near falling apart, like the cover's about to fall off, so I would like to own a second copy of all of those books. But other than that, I don't really understand people's need to have a bunch of special editions. Maybe I just don't have the money for it right now, and that's why I'm not participating, but I don't know. Smut in books. I am a smut fan. I will stand by that. I love having smut in books. It's entertaining. I think it develops the relationship. I think it's a safe way to explore, like Lexi was saying in her video, I think it's a safe way to explore sexuality. I mean, art in history has always portrayed sex. Like having smut in art is like not a new thing. It's also not a large portion of a lot of the books that I read. Like having a few smut scenes, it's important. Like relationships, especially romance books, having smut in them, in my opinion, and also because I don't mind it, having smut in romance books is important because sex is a way to explore and deepen a relationship. Most relationships, and I'm making a generalization here and I know that, a lot of relationships include sexual aspects to them, and that is a way to develop a relationship. Having a relationship, an adult relationship, and not showing the sexual aspects, I think is a little ridiculous unless you're writing about an asexual relationship or something of that nature. But I think sex is a very important aspect of a relationship and should be talked about if you are in a romance book, because romance also includes sex. In my mind, that's just true. Depending on, you know, the book and whatever, it can sometimes be overdone, but that's like an individual opinion that I don't think I can make a generalization on or like a broad stance on that, because every book, like if you're not enjoying the relationship in a book, then obviously you're not going to enjoy the smut in a book. Or not obviously, but like for me, if I'm not enjoying the characters in the relationship, I'm not going to really enjoy the smut in a book. So I think it's very individual, but smut as like a whole topic, I think it's very important and necessary for a lot of romance books to include that. Now the level or the descriptiveness and whatever, that's a personal taste and personal opinion, but I don't think that smut in books is something that should never happen and it's like pornographic and all this stuff. Like I think is very valid in a way to deepen and explore a relationship. And if you don't like smut, just skip over those chapters. Like I read a book recently, and this is the first time I've ever done this, but like I was reading a book and I didn't really like it and I was on the verge of DNFing. I just got to a bunch of smut scenes and I was like, I just don't really want to read these, and so I skipped over them. Like I knew that whatever they did had happened, but I didn't like read in depth or in detail the smut scenes where they had done it, read like the little part where they were speaking in bed after and whatever, and then like, you know, it didn't take away from my reading experience. Okay, my next topic is the YA genre, and this is something I'm very passionate about. I think a lot of people get the YA genre wrong. I've been reading since, and this is not to be like I'm a reader, but I've been reading since I was probably like, as long as I can remember, I've been consuming books rapidly. I read the YA genre heavily. YA genre, if you look it up, includes the ages from 12 to 18. And that's a very, very large age range. I think a lot of people, when they think of YA, they're thinking of middle grade. Middle grade, that's like children's books, and that includes chapter books. That's not just picture books. That's a whole nother age range. 12 to 18 is YA. Whenever there is a YA book and it has like implications of sex, violence, racism, like serious topics that are in YA books, people are like, whoa, this is too much for the YA genre. I disagree. I'm 20. So like I'm fully an adult. When I was reading middle grade and learning about myself and learning about, you know, my interest in boys, or learning about important topics such as race in like the school system and things like that, bringing up those topics was pivotal. Yes. Bringing up those topics was pivotal to my, that sounds wrong. Pivotal. I think that's the right word. To my development. That's something that you need to learn about, in my opinion, as a young person from the ages of 12 to 18. That is when people are discovering their sexuality. That is when people are finding their identity. A lot of major development happens, and I think it's unfair to discount a book as too adult or not YA if there's like sex in that book. Now, graphic sex scenes, there needs to be some sort of like, okay, that's taking it too far. This is very graphic. Maybe this should be adult. Yes, I agree with that. It's called young adult, so it does have the adult in it. Middle grade is the whole entire, like, we're not touching any of those serious topics. This is just for kids. It has the word adult in it. You are learning to become an adult. You need to talk about and discuss those serious topics. And I'm focusing very heavily on sex in this topic because that's what I hear people most speaking about, is like, this is a YA book and they had sex in it. Like, this should not be in the YA genre. I disagree. I think it's important that people discover their sexuality and their personality through media in a safe space. And YA is a genre in which it includes 18-year-olds. When you were 18, you knew what sex was. Maybe I'm very opinionated on that and I shouldn't be, but I really dislike when people do that, because I read the YA genre for so long, up until I was 18. As an 18-year-old, what you're telling me I can't know what sex is and it can't be in my book. Not that I need a graphic sex scene or smut in that book, but having mentions of it is not wrong for someone between the ages of 12 and 18. Like, that is when you're developing critical thought processes on those subjects, and it's important to see it reflected in media, I think, is what I'm trying to say. Anyways, moving on. Epilogues. Epilogues, hate them. I hate epilogues. Now, if you like the epilogues, I get it. I just like the book ended and then you want to tell me about their kids and then whatever. I don't care. So a lot of times I'll skip them or I'll skim, but sometimes I will read them through because I'm like, it's part of the book. I just want to say that I've read all of it, so I do put in the effort and read it. Most of the time, the epilogues don't add anything for me. They just like kind of irritate me. Book talk ruining the book space. I don't think book talk has ruined anything. I think if you are on book talk and you're like, now it's only romance, it's only fantasy, blah blah blah, you curate your own For You page and you may have curated it incorrectly. People on book talk are hostile sometimes and overly critical, want to be holier than thou and whatever. So I just think that hostile community, but I don't think it's ruined. Next topic is tropification. Assigning a trope to everything. As people in our media literacy, we need to be aware that when you put a trope on something, that is not the extent of the book. That's just a tagline to describe what is inside the book. Just like genres. Like, right, you name a book as a romance book. That doesn't mean it's only about a romance. It's one of the main points of the book. It's something that a lot of people like, oh, I want to read a book about love. You tag it as romance, people know, oh, this book is gonna give me what I want, for the most part. It's the same thing with tropes. It's just like a little label or a tag that tells you kind of overarchingly what you might get if you're looking for that specific thing. And I think that's valuable, so you can go into a book a certain expectation. As readers, we've latched onto the idea too heavily and like depend on that for our recommendations and whatever. When people are looking for a book of that specific genre or that specific trope, it makes it easier for people to find it if you label things. I think a lot of people think that authors are now writing to hit specific tropes so that they can be tagged as that and maybe become more popular. That's been happening forever. So many different types of medias, like not just books. Tropification, tropes have been around for a long time. You see it in Jane Austen, enemies to lovers in Jane Austen. So I don't think tropes are a new thing. People often forget that something they're now seeing on social media is not always a new aspect of a genre or media or whatever. It's often a resurgence of it. Books similar to other books. So I feel like this new thing in book talk is saying that all the books are feeling the same. Just like in the publishing industry, I think this goes along a little bit with tropes. I think that, okay, I took a media class this semester in college, and one of the things we had to do was watch this documentary, and it was about like copyright basically. But what it really examined was like all media has taken an idea or copied something from another piece of media, and we've just created copyright as a way to police it. Like, you can't directly copy something. Every media, every piece of media, every song, every book, every movie has taken a piece of another piece of media and used it as inspiration, whether that's knowingly or not. Directly copy a piece of media, that's one thing, right? We all agree that directly copying something and claiming it as your own is wrong. Every piece of media that you ever consume is a copy of another piece of media, has taken some part of that other piece of media and embedded it in this new thing, whether that's unconsciously or consciously. A lot of artists take inspiration from things because that's who they are. They consume art, it affects their person, and then they put out their work that has then generally been affected by that piece of art that they consumed. That's not a new concept, that's not wrong, that's just how art works. No story is ever new. We've been creating, writing, and telling stories for so long, but there will never be an original idea. There's like in that documentary, they went over the structure of general stories, and there's like 9 different types. I don't remember. I need to rewatch that documentary. A certain number of types of stories that you can tell. There are not infinite possibilities. Everything has been told at least once. It just gets retold and retold and retold. That is how media works. I'm a communication media major, so a lot of my classes this semester have talked heavily about that. There's never just a new, completely authentic and new piece of media. That's not how it works. Every piece of media is impacted or altered by other pieces of media that have predated it, and that's how it's worked forever, and that's how it will forever work. So I think that when people say that all the stories, like nothing feels new, nothing feels creative or innovative anymore, it's because it's not. No book is ever the original. Like, that's my take on it. You will never find an original piece of media, and so people making a really big deal about it is like confusing to me, because it's just common sense in my brain. Maybe it's not for everybody, and I don't think like I'm completely right on this. Like, there's nuance to this, but this is my opinion. But like, nothing is ever original, nothing's ever going to be original, so why are we complaining about things not being original? They're not. But duh. I don't know. I don't really know. I don't think I've synthesized my thoughts correctly on this, but yeah, nothing's original. That's like kind of the entire point of media. Those are all the bookish hot takes I've had, and this was a really long filming process, so I hope this has turned into a video that you will enjoy. Thank you so much for watching Bookmas. Again, my name is Reagan. I have a book video coming out every day between the 12th to the 24th. I hope you enjoy. Thank you so much for watching. I love you, and I hope to see you in another video. Bye.